Song from the Dancing Years, Mary Ellis with Ivor Novello at the piano. To go back to the start, David Ivor Davies was born in Cardiff, Wales, on the 15th of January, 1893. He inherited a gift for music not only from his native land, but from his indomitable mother, the founder of the Royal Welsh Ladies' Choir, Madame Clara Novello Davies. She'd been christened by her father after the famous Italian singer Clara Novello. Madame Davies had opened a school of music in her home, giving singing and piano lessons, which she took very seriously. Even Ivor's arrival into the world seemed to have been secondary. He was born just 2 hours after she'd given a singing lesson. The startled pupil had no idea that her teacher was even pregnant, which says perhaps something on the fashions, the dress fashions of the times. Ivor had different ideas about his birth. Some measure of his fantastic imagination may be judged by this account, written at the age of 8. One morning, when Mam was very busy giving lessons, a most important gentleman came to our front door, carrying a huge box from Queen Victoria. He was all dressed in a beautiful uniform of red, and had on a blue hat with a white feather. Mamsie couldn't leave the studio, so he walked right in and laid the box on the piano, saying, "For you, madame," and went out backwards. There was a letter on top, written in gold ink, and here's what it said. "Dear Madam, I think it was very kind of you to let me hear your lovely choir singing at Osborne, and I hope you will like this nice present I am sending you with fondest love. Signed, the Queen." When Mamsie opened the big box, she found it was all lined with red and blue cotton wool, and there, in the very middle, was me. Ivor was a born theatrical. What an entrance! And a patriotic, too. From his earliest days, Ivor showed an ability and ease in the composition of light music. His first song was published in 1908 when he was 15. During World War I, he was responsible for part of the scores of several musical comedies. But his first great success, written at the age of 21, was a song which became one of the all-time great war tunes. It was enormously popular on the home front on both sides of the Atlantic, as well as with the fighting lads themselves.
They were summoned from the hillside, they were called in from the glen, and the country found them ready at the stirring call for men. Let no tears add to their hardships as the soldiers pass along, and although your heart is breaking, make it sing this cheery song. Keep the home fires burning while your hearts are yearning. Though your lads are far away, they dream of home. There's a silver lining through the dark cloud shining. Turn the dark cloud inside out till the boys come home. Overseas there came a pleading, help a nation in distress, and we gave our glorious laddies on our banners to no less. For no gallant son of freedom to a tyrant's yoke should bend, and a noble heart must answer to the sacred call of a friend. Keep the home fires burning while your hearts are yearning. Though your lads are far away, they dream of home. There's a silver lining through the dark cloud shining. Turn the dark cloud inside out till the boys come home.
John McCormick recorded Keep the Home Fires Burning in 1915. He estimated that in all he earned £20,000 for that recording. There are many legends about the song. One was that it made Novello a millionaire overnight, and another that he sold it for next to nothing. In fact, he received a royalty for every copy sold, which, to quote W. McQueen Pope's book, The Curtain Rises, made him a little fortune. When America entered the war, it was sung every night for a week at the Metropolitan Opera House in Philadelphia, and soon became known throughout the country. In New Zealand, it was introduced by Ivor's cousin, Anna, at the Great Exhibition, where it caused a sensation. In Canada, it was said to have rivaled the Maple Leaf forever as the marching song of the troops. It became a symbol of the Allied cause against German imperialism. It rallied men to the colours and was used everywhere as a propaganda medium, even playing a part in the eventual entry of the United States into the war. So, at the age of 21, Ivor was known to millions. He was a boy wonder, and his good looks carried him into films and stardom even before his stage career had commenced. His first film, The Call of the Blood, was made in 1919. It was filmed in Sicily, and although Ivor wasn't pleased with his performance, he turned out to be a natural. He made a second film shortly after, Miaka, and then another, Carnival, and then many more. In 1921, he wrote the score of the show A to Z for the Prince of Wales Theatre, and it ran for 450 performances.
My car will meet her, and her mother comes too. It's a two-seater, still her mother comes too. And when they're visiting me, we finish afternoon tea. She loves to sit on my knee, and her mother does too. We buy her trousseau, and her mother comes too. Ask not to do so, still her mother comes too. She simply can't take a snub. I go and sulk at the club, then have a bath and a rub, and her brother comes too.
Jack Buchanan singing And Her Mother Came Too from the review A to Z. Ivor Novello made his stage debut at the Ambassadors Theatre in November 1921, playing Armand Duval in a play called De Bureau. 3 years later, he wrote his first play, The Rat, and appeared in it himself. For the next 15 years, he wrote ballads, plays, and music for revues and musical comedies, as well as becoming a leading matinee idol in his own and other plays. In 1934, at the end of a successful tour of his play Proscenium, Ivor took the cast of the show, Faye Compton, Edna Best, Zena Dare, and Robert Andrews, into a new play he'd written, Murder in Mayfair. Ivor played the part of a French pianist. Here's an excerpt from a recording of the original show with Ivor and Faye Compton.
Lovely, darling Leha.
Yes, he's a darling, but it happens to be Leo Fowl.
Jacques, it was Leha. We danced it all night.
Yes, I know. It's the waltz from Eva.
Exactly. Eva by Leha.
By Leo Fowl.
Leha.
Listen, I don't want to lose my temper, Mary.
You've lost it.
I have not lost it, but at any moment I shall. You dare to tell me something I've known all my life.
You may have known it all your life, but it was Leha.
It was Leo. Listen, Leha never does this.
But that's exactly what he does do. Listen.
Go on, sing it. Go on. Oh, you still have a little voice left. I'm surprised.
So was I.
Tell me, can you play the piano steel with both hands?
I can, but I don't.
Oh, too busy?
Much.
Pity. You had quite a nice little talent.
Little. I seem to remember wearing a silver medal when you wore a bronze.
Silver is more becoming to a woman. You are very pretty, and the judge was susceptible.
I see. Just a woman.
Just a woman.
Was that why Tetchy begged me with tears in his eyes not to give it up, ever?
Oh, of course, he was crazy for you.
Oh, you infuriate me.
I always did.
You always will.
Successful as his early work was, Ivor longed for a large orchestra, a vast theatrical canvas, and a company of highly trained singers to give him scope for a romantic score. The year was 1935, and it so happened that the Theatre Royal Drury Lane was going through a bad period after a series of unsuccessful American shows. H.M. Tennant, who had recently become managing director of the Lane, approached Ivor, who immediately set to work on an idea. The result? Glamorous Night. On the 2nd of May, 1935, it was unveiled to tumultuous applause. Ivor chose Mary Ellis as his leading lady.
my heart, and once more I know. Each night whenever music plays, I dream of lonely
Glamorous Night began a whole new era of successful spectacle at Drury Lane. It tells the tale of a young inventor, played by Ivor, who, disappointed with his lack of success with a new system of television, goes on a luxury cruise. While visiting a mythical European country, he goes to see an operetta, Glamorous Night, in which the prima donna at the State Opera House is singing. The role was played, as I've said, by Mary Ellis, and she rehearses the new operetta with the leading man, played by Trevor Jones.
Ooh.
Glamorous Night was a success in every way. King George and Queen Mary came to see it. A week later, Ivor and his mother were invited to the royal garden party, and they were presented to their majesties. Ivor's biographer, Peter Noble, described the meeting. The dialogue has a ring of a fairy tale. His Majesty: "And you write the story and the music and act the principal part yourself. Don't you find it very tiring in this hot weather?" Ivor, diplomatically: "Not when you're in front, sir." To which His Majesty said, "Well, I can tell you this, we enjoyed ourselves enormously, but we could have wished a different ending. We found it a little sad, the Queen and I. In fact, you made the Queen cry." Ivor apologizes. "Make the next one with a happy ending, please," said His Majesty, and Ivor said he would. Ivor Novello was everything a matinee idol should be: charming, good-looking by current standards, and talented. It seems that he didn't lose his image off stage. All his friends spoke of him as kind and generous to a fault. His flat above the Strand Theatre became one of the most famous haunts in London. Ivor saved Drury Lane Theatre with Glamorous Night, and he went on to write 3 more musical successes, one after another. They were Careless Rapture, Crest of the Wave, and The Dancing Years. Careless Rapture opened at Drury Lane in September 1936, with much the same team as before, but with Dorothy Dixon as the leading lady.
All the winter through, I sat alone and thought of you, while lazy hours on the clock rolled by. Every day so long as a year, and sad as a sigh, brought happiness near. For soon as early spring awoke the birds and they that sing of all the joys that are born anew. Winter and sorrow took wing, and the
one scene of Careless Rapture, Ivor makes one of his rare excursions into song and a bit of opera. Here he is in the scene with Dorothy Dixon and Olive Gilbert.
Madam, have you ever heard me sing flat?
Flat? Let me see.
You have. Then he was right.
Who was right?
Oh, some ridiculous man said I sang flat one night.
Oh, we can correct it if it is enough. Here, sing an arpeggio.
No, still flat.
Oh, madam, I'm so sorry. This is the ridiculous lunatic that follows me everywhere.
Oh, my dear, if he follows you everywhere, he is no ridiculous lunatic.
Oh, that's the talk I like to hear. You're rapidly becoming my favorite woman.
Young man, come down from that window.
Well, if I do, can I have a singing lesson?
Have you a voice?
I don't know. I've never tried.
Try now.
I think I'd better go.
No, don't go. I'm not a bit self-conscious. Besides, you'll have to get used to my voice.
Let us hear this voice that you say you have never tried. Say, ah.
Ah.
No. Sing.
Who did that?
You did.
Did I? Oh, well, I think I'd be better in opera.
I think you'll be better in jail.
No, opera. The food's better. I wish I could but know who the charming stranger was who addressed me.
It seems to me I interfere with lovers' meeting. Oh, no. Oh, yes. I will depart, but later I'll return.
But what about my lesson?
Oh, young man, you need no lesson.
The time has come when I must on my way.
The way for you is my way too.
I sometimes fear that you will never understand that when a king says no, the only thing a man should do is quickly go.
And if I still refuse to go,
How can you still refuse? Young man, I'm much afraid that when you you must be sure she desires your attention.
of all the maidens I have met, you fairly are most obstinate.
Maybe, but the thing you will not see is that you don't appeal to me.
I don't appeal to you. You must be mad.
No.
Gaze deep into my eyes. There you will see the love light burning.
True love may be but light, and to a sinner returning.
Forget me only let a stranger, and that your heart is to another given. Yet if your heart is his, then what can be the danger of just one hour?
Will you alone?
One hour with me alone.
Cannot be.
Yet if some fate should set you are free,
I dare not say so. You must forget me if you can.
and if I do,
How like a man.
I love you. Oh,
With Careless Rapture, Ivor had once again raised the British flag over London theatre. Another thing which endeared him to the theatre audiences of the time was the undercurrent of British patriotism, which came through so well in plays like Crest of the Wave, his next success. It opened in London in 1937 to standing-room-only audiences. Ivor was said to have received over 5,000 telegrams of good wishes on opening night.
to flash the more, hang from their beams, dreaming the dreams of war. The ground is mine, and hard wine live Rose of England, thou shalt fade not here. Oh, forgetful ages wander near. Great shall thy petals be as reach thine unfold, shed by thy warriors who serve thee of old. Rose of England, dreaming England there, love chivalry forever fair. While these proud walls endure to cherish thy pride, thou shalt blossom through the end of
That's from the original cast recording of Crest of the Wave with Edgar Elms and the Drury Lane Orchestra. The show ran for about 7 months. When his next musical, The Dancing Years, opened on the 23rd of March 1939, there were already rumblings of war, and this perhaps contributed to its incredible popularity. The public flocked to his show to be transported from the reality of every day into the realms of romantic music and song.
Slowly setting in
Dancing Years was withdrawn after 187 performances because all theatres in London closed just after the outbreak of war in September 1939, and Drury Lane was requisitioned as the headquarters for Services Entertainment. Dancing Years went on tour with great success and finally came back to the Adelphi in the Strand in 1942, where it continued to run for 969 performances. The plot had a topical twist, with the hero being saved from a concentration camp in the last act. At the final curtain, the cast are all looking back to the past glories of old Vienna. A film version of The Dancing Years was made in 1950 with Dennis Price and Giselle Preville. It was quite a success, though Ivor said that he preferred the stage to films as a medium for his work. He seemed to pass over the fact that he'd made scores of films and was once the most popular film star in the UK. There's been talk recently of a television remake of The Dancing Years, and the head of drama at ATV in London is reported to be currently trying to find a girl who looks and sings like an angel for the lead role. While The Dancing Years was still running at the Adelphi, another Ivor Novello show opened at the Phoenix Theatre. It was Arc de Triomphe. Ivor played in it opposite Muriel Barron. Mary Ellis and Peter Graves were also in the cast.
I'm easy to live with, and you're easy to look at. You must admit that we, like notes in tune, agree.
at. You must admit that we, like notes in June, agree. And if you should discover you've a longing for the perfect lover, then please consider me. I'm indifferent and you're easy to look at. Our life would be divine when once your heart is mine. Don't think about it twice, dear.
It's an easy way to paradise.
And we're not for you were never meant to be living all alone, dear. I was never meant to be quite upon my own, dear. There is room enough for two in your maisonette, dear. I have known this to be true since the day we met, dear.
You're easy to live with,
And you're easy to look at.
you must admit that we,
Like notes in June agree. And if you should discover you've a longing for the perfect lover, then please consider me.
you're easy to live with.
And you're easy to look at. Our life would be divine when once your heart is mine.
Don't think about it right here.
It's an easy way to paradise, dear. And we're not for
After the war, some of Ivor's earlier successes were revived, and at one stage 3 of them were playing in various parts of England at the one time, as well as Perchance to Dream, which had opened in April 1945. He wrote his last play, Gaze the Word, with Alan Melville, and it opened at the Saville Theatre in February 1951, with Cicely Courtnidge starring. Its style of music was quite a departure for him. Cis plays the part of an out-of-work actress who starts a drama school. Although 2 of her best pupils are chosen for a new play, the school fails. But a new stage production puts her once again on top and full of the vitality she is taught to her students.
Vitality. It matters more than personality, originality, or topicality, for it's vitality that made all those top-liners top. Vitality. They each had individuality, but in reality, their speciality was a vitality enough to make hits out of flops. They could knock you for 6. They had vigor and drive. They know microphone tricks. They were live vitality. The stars who gained our immortality knew with finality the practicality of something that's lacking in us. They all had vitality plus. Do you remember Gertie Miller? Ah, you wouldn't, I'm afraid. Mary Lloyd, and Vesta Tilley's swagger came. Lily Elsie as the widow, Josie Collins as the maid, dear old Roby, Billy Merson at the lane. Ah, some gone, and some who still are the tops of any bill. Give me Gracie Fields in place of any crooner. Hetty King, still debonair. Phyllis Dare and Zena Dare. G.H. Eliot in the Lily of Laguna. Let the charmed school keep on charming. Let the Bobby Soxers spawn. If you want to see vitality, see Dorothy and Sean.
Vitality
It matters more than personality, originality, or topicality, or immortality. They made all the top line the top. Vitality. They each had individuality, but in reality, their speciality was a vitality. Enough to make hits out of flop. All the stars of the past are remembered today, and the reason they lost, they were gay, gay, gay.
Vitality, the stars who gain their immortality, you with finality, the practicality of something that's lacking in us. They all had vitality plus. They had vigor, they were bigger, they had wonderful attack. They were workers, never shirkers, never blasé, never slack. They could thrill you, they could fill you with that energy and verve. They were servants of the public, and by golly did they serve. They were singers who were singers, nothing candle, nothing tinned. They were artists to the fingertips. Oh, I'm getting short of wind. They were zealous, they were jealous of the fame that they had won. They were vitally entitled to their stardom, they were fun. And if you think that their vitality has vanished, well, that's what. There's a certain Mr. Churchill who's still got quite a lump. And if you're getting really personal, I think that you'll agree, as a sample and example of vitality, that's me.
Vitality, the complicated immortality, human finality, the practicality of something that's lacking with us. They all have vitality.
All have vitality.
All have vitality plus.
With King's Rhapsody, Ivor's last musical, he returned to the traditional world of pure musical romance, with veritable cavalcades of kings, mistresses, planned royal weddings, and abdications. Vanessa Lee singing Someday One My Heart Will Awake from King's Rhapsody. Although Ivor still retained his buoyant and youthful outlook, the strain of work was beginning to tell. In spite of failing health, he carried on with his part in King's Rhapsody right up until the end. He died after a performance of the show on the 5th of March 1961. He left behind for all time a wealth of glorious melody. That musical special on the life of Ivor Novello was prepared by Joyce Hapiet.